What's up, guys? Welcome to the In the Portal podcast. My name is Zavier Gussett. I'm here with Liam. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about wrestling and some stuff that wrestling at Penn State has to offer in NIL and the transfers of lately. Last time we spoke about the lacrosse, Penn State lacrosse semifinal championship against Duke, which they lost 16-15 in overtime with a close one, and Duke ended up going on to lose to Notre Dame in the championship. So what's up, Liam? How are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk some wrestling. There's a lot going on. We just got Penn State just confirmed a new commit, Kurt McHenry, who spent 5 years at Michigan. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and go into some wrestling stuff?
Yeah. So Penn State obviously coming off the national championship and really good success in their program. They've loaded up very quickly this offseason and through the transfer portal, and they're definitely starting to replace some holes that they've lost last year. Like you just mentioned, Kurt McHenry. They haven't had Penn State hasn't had an All-American at the 125-pound range since 2016, and McHenry could be a guy who can come in and potentially compete and fill that void and become an All-American. So he's definitely going to be a huge addition, and especially taking him from a Big Ten rival is definitely a huge news for Penn State. There's also just Bernie Truax is another guy who they added in April, who has the potential to replace NCAA champion Max Dean from this year. So they're bringing in a lot of guys that have a lot of potential and have dominated in their previous schools. So if you have anyone, I know we've gotten a lot. So if you want to mention some more guys that they've added more recently.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you named McHenry from Michigan, who, like I said, spent 5 years at Michigan and went 7-0 last year at the 125, the lightweight thing. So he should come in and be able to compete with Robbie Howard for the 125 weight class. As you mentioned, Bernie Truax, the fourth, the grad transfer. Aaron Nagao, the sophomore at 133, should be expected to start as of now on Flow Wrestling. They have him starting, and then Mitchell Messon brings another guy who might end up being a red shirt, but he's a freshman and he's from Cal Baptist. Went 2-0 last year, and he's wrestles at the 165 spot. And like you said, there's a lot of competition. So a lot of these guys can be looking to get in the starting lineup this next upcoming season, and that's going to be really beneficial to the program for sure up this next year.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, Aaron Nagao, another taking away from another Big Ten school in Minnesota. He was obviously an All-American there. He's got, he's got a big shoes to step in with Penn State losing Roman Bravo Young, but he's another guy that will hopefully come in and play or wrestle great right out of the start and keep this team in this lineup just as good as they've been doing. 10 championships in the past 12 season under Cale Saunders. So this they're keeping it rolling, and they have, I know, a lot of good freshmen coming in. If you want to talk a little bit about that as well, because they have seems to be putting things together, and there's really no slowing down this Penn State wrestling program anytime soon, I don't think.
Yeah, no, with NIL, the resources are definitely at Penn State for them to take advantage of the wrestling. And like you said, they got several guys coming in for 2023 and already for 2024 as well. There's a couple top freshmen, a couple of the guys. Braden Davis is here. He's the number 42 wrestler in the 2023 class, according to Flow Wrestling. He'll be wrestling at 133 when he comes in. Josh Barr is one of the 2023 wrestlers. Tyler Kasak, AJ Friccione, just to name a couple of the guys for 2023. They should have a big class coming in, and definitely will be competitive next year. And like I said, NIL has been taken over, especially at Penn State, ever since NIL started. They introduced the Success with Honor, thanks to Ira Lubert. They introduced Success with Honor, and basically that just gives subscriptions and abilities for parents and other people to give money and donate to the athletes and help out at Penn State. They're a 501c3, so they're allowed to give taxable money, and it definitely is a big thing that has been taken over at Penn State in terms of the NIL circle. and has already seen a couple guys take advantage of stuff with NIL deals with the NIL store and other things that we'll talk about in a minute here.
Yeah, definitely. And the great thing with Success with Honor is that it is something that is beneficial to all 850 athletes in the 31 sports at Penn State. So it's not just, everybody, even if even people on scholarship can benefit from it. And like you said, the tax deductible donations is a great thing that Penn State is doing, and it's going to help out a lot of athletes going forward. And I think that's, also a big reason why Penn State is also can bring in these recruits and big time transfers. Obviously, one of the larger universities in the country. That's a great initiative that's been going on. And like you said, the stores that are open up, we talked about it last week with the lacrosse team and how they were able to open up a store and start getting their names out there on shirts and merchandise has been awesome to see. So, yeah. And then the other thing with some of the bigger names, like you mentioned, we talk about Roman Bravo Young getting NIL deals with MMA. And so that is also a huge thing to see people from Penn State going on to do more in the professional level NIL deals, if you want to expand more on that at all.
In January, the WWE reached a NIL deal with one of the wrestlers and another football player as well. But the heavyweight wrestler for Penn State, Greg Kervliet, him and Nick Dawkins signed a deal for next in line with the WWE, which is a big professional deal, as you said, and it's next in line to for the WWE to recruit incoming wrestlers. And like you said, that's a big thing for guys that want to come here to Penn State and get in the NIL space in general to get themselves out there. It sets them up, sets them and the other teammates up for future deals and stuff and success. And like I said, with all the deals and collectives coming in, it's just going to be a lot bigger thing for athletes to get benefits outside of the sports, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously get into a lot throughout the summer with these NIL deals and how the transfer portal is so open in college sports now. And just, it's, there's good and bad opinions around the country on it. Sometimes it can now probably get into bidding wars with all the money that is getting tossed around with it. But there's no doubt that it is it's good for the athletes to be able to benefit off their own name, image, and likeness. So it'll be really, really interesting to follow that going forward. I know it's relatively new in the world of college athletics, but it's definitely been interesting to follow and see how it's affecting all these different programs. And program like Penn State Wrestling, who's just been so dominant, to add something like NIL to an already program that's been so dominant over the last few years is definitely something that'll be really good for the athletes, and hopefully, for Penn State's sake, keep them on top of the college wrestling world.
Exactly. And yeah, with a program that's been as good as Penn State's wrestling and other sports as well, it's definitely important to stay, up to date and progressive. And so the coach Cale Sanderson, for his ability to recruit and adapt to the NIL landscape with guys like other coaches at Penn State. It's definitely been really big for them, and should be in the next couple of years. It should really only increase the amount of attention in the NIL space and the transfer portal.
Yeah. And as we start to wrap up, I mean, I think it is interesting. I know I mentioned it earlier that Penn State is grabbing guys from Big Ten teams. And I think that's something interesting to look at, that they're, to get a guy from Michigan and a guy from Minnesota is really interesting, because these are, schools that they compete with the most every year, and they're battling back and forth. So for them to be able to take guys from those schools, I think speaks to how strong their program is, and how guys want to see Penn State and see everything they're doing. And, you see guys getting deals with the WWE and the MMA that obviously, makes people want to come to Penn State and have them move up and be set up for the future after their careers at Penn State are over with.
Exactly. The competitive nature of NIL is the biggest pro in terms of the roster changes. And like you said, Penn State's got to be aggressive so they can take teams, other guys from other programs, or else they'll probably lose more players than not. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up here, Liam?
I think that's it. I mean, it's been really cool to look into the wrestling world and see how that is going. I'm sure we will throughout the summer continue to dive into more sports and hopefully bring some guests in going forward. So if you want to close us out, I think this has been a great episode and great intake on a very storied program at Penn State with the wrestling team.
Definitely, and like you talked about, get some guests on here, talk about some other sports transfer portal incomings and outcomings and other NIL impact and stuff, and that should be a lot of fun and a lot of stuff over the summer. So thank you for watching the In the Portal podcast, and look forward to next time.